Here we go now.
Here we go now. Here we go now. Mm-mm. Here we go now. Here we go now. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. This is our weekly pre-recorded recap of the Real Housewives of Orange County. I did not recap last week's episode of Hoedown, Showdown. And I'm going to record this pre-recorded recap of last week's episode and this week's episode in two parts, meaning it will be one video, but I'm recording part of it now, and then I'm going to record the other part later. And if I'm in a completely different outfit and it's completely different setup, you know why, okay? Because that's how much I do not care about this current season of the Real Housewives of Orange County, because it's only gotten worse. And I just tweeted this. I said, Alexis had a huge flop of a season last season. And all of y'all, okay, maybe not all of y'all, but a lot of y'all, like, you were so excited about Gretchen coming back this season. She's going to be the only one to hold Tamra accountable. I haven't seen that happen. And I'm honestly not even that interested in Gretchen. And the Slade of it all, I'm even more not interested in Slade. And I do believe that she has Slade do her dirty work, but they're both dirty and they're both liars. But Tamra's also a liar, and so is Katie.
Lies, the lies.
So for those of you that are team whoever, be team whoever you want to be. But I am team no one in this particular situation, because every single person is not trustworthy for me to stand behind. Not even you, Jen. Sidebar, Jen got she got to sit next to Andy Cohen, which makes me wonder what the rest of the season is going to look like. So let me bring up because they did the reunion. For those that didn't know, the reunion happened, I think it was last week the reunion happened. Let me bring this over. So this was the reunion chart. So a lot of people were speculating a few episodes ago that Katie would be all by herself, but Katie's on the far end of the seating. So not sure the likelihood of Katie returning next season, because remember, Katie has barely filmed with the cast this season. She's barely been seen in the last few weeks. Some of you speculate that's why the episodes have been lackluster, and I dare to tell you, no, Katie is just as boring as the rest of this cast. Okay, so Katie can go, Gretchen can go. I don't want to see Gretchen next season either, because what is Gretchen going to talk about? Her 15-year-old beef with Tamra? No. Tamra, I know they're going to bring her back for the 20th season, so I'm not going to even say Tamra can go. Tamra can stay for now, I guess. But Tamra, I don't trust you either. And the whole fact, oh, wait, sidebar, congratulations to Teddy Mellencamp. She right now is in good health and received a lot of really good news in regards to the cancer scans and things like that. So that's a fantastic thing for us to celebrate and send good vibes to her. She's not my favorite person when it comes to her opinions and things like that. However, we would never wish bad health on anyone, right? Look, because I know some of y'all were like, well, no, right? No, but congratulations to Teddy. What I did not and what I have not liked this season, and this is a safe space, right? We listen and we don't judge. Maybe. Look.
I am the fifth member. How about that?
We listen and we don't judge. But it does feel like, especially in last week's episode, where Tamara's like, I'm going through, mind you, Tamara quit the previous week's episode, but here she is this week. And we already knew when she quit the first time this season, and we found out on social media. I told you she'll be back, and she was. I had no idea that she quit multiple times after that. Then go. If you really don't like the situation, then go, Tamara. But we know you like that check, and you ain't getting another check from anywhere else. However, her podcast is doing very well. I will give her that. The podcast business that she's in with Teddy, that is doing very well. But let's be clear, her big check and what helps promote this podcast is her being on Real Housewives of Orange County. Sidebar, speaking of her podcast, so she claims that someone from Wendy Acefo's neighborhood reached out to her and said that the neighbors did not believe that Wendy was robbed. I will say this. The Gabbing with Gibson episode where Wendy talks about the robbery late last year, she talked about it. She says since the inception of this neighborhood 20 years ago, there has not been a robbery. Not to say that a robbery is impossible, but apparently, according to Tamra, and I don't know if Tamra was able to confirm that this was actually a neighbor, but she says the neighborhood was informed of this robbery and everyone believed that it was insurance fraud. How many black people are in that neighborhood? I'm just asking, because we also found out, shout out to our DMV sources, a lot of you have said that Trump country, that particular area, which also makes me worry for how this is going to be investigated and handled and prosecuted, because they might throw the book at Wendy and Eddie. Again, the information against them is pretty damning. But Tamra claims that one of the neighbors reached out to her, which says a lot. It says a lot about the neighborhood, because no one from that neighborhood reached out to me or people of our likeness. Any other blog has not reached out to us. So I'm not completely surprised. Where was your son on January 6th, Tamra? Just asking. So I'm not completely surprised that one of the neighbors decided to reach out to Tamra and reveal this information. Okay. Tamra, mind your business. It's so interesting to see how some of the other Bravo celebrities have handled the Wendy situation. And some might say, well, that should tell you a little bit about her interaction and relationships with the other Bravo people. Possibly. I'm not surprised, because like I've told you before, when we reported on the Brooke Ashley and Wendy Acefo incident, I told you, I heard from other sources that, some people just did not like Wendy behind the scenes. They just felt like she wasn't very nice. She wasn't a very nice person. And it wasn't even about Wendy feeling like she was better than other people. Maybe they interpret it as that, but people just said that there never was a connection. I've never interacted directly with Wendy, just because I know I say a lot of things on this platform and I have not been a huge fan of hers, but I feel like at least with this situation, I've been trying to at least give her some sort of benefit of the doubt. Some, calm down, because I know something like, no, you haven't, Kempire. You said this and that. I said some, because some of the information that the police department provided is pretty damning. I'm waiting to hear from Wendy and Eddie. Apparently, Eddie's in New York City. Oh, Lord. What they doing here? Maybe meeting with an attorney? Yeah, I mean, I hope Eddie's not going to try and represent himself, because I'm already questioning your smarts because of the way this allegedly was handled. All right, we've digressed, because I'd much rather talk about the Wendy and the Eddie of it all than talk about the Tamra and the Real Housewives of Orange County of it all. But you see this seating chart. But if you're listening to the podcast version, Jen is sitting next to Andy. Tamra is sitting next to Andy. Dare I say, damn, Shannon is close. She's basically falling off the couch. Gretchen is right next to her, the friend of. Next to Jen is Emily. Next to Tamra on the other couch is Gina. Gina and Emily normally do not sit together, for those that wonder about that. Heather Dubrow barely falling off the couch too. I find it interesting that they put Heather and Katie next to each other. She does not like Katie. And I saw her on the Humble Brag podcast this week, Heather Dubrow. I will say her explanation of why the interaction of the bloggers on the show is not great for the show. I thought her explanation of that was pretty good. I have to say, a lot of things that she said made a lot of sense. This last week's episode, the Hoedown Showdown, it was a very philanthropic episode. As you know, the Trevor Project, Heather has supported the prison reform project that Emily has brought to the show multiple times. Some of you love to say that she's just doing this for a storyline, blah, blah, blah. If she is, fine. Because here's the thing. Now it's brought attention to this organization. It's brought attention, at least in last week's episode, to the amount of people that are wrongfully imprisoned and that are still in prison wrongfully. It still brings attention to it. So if it's just for her storyline, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. It's bringing attention to a particular person's story every single season. So Emily, keep doing the damn thing when it comes to that. Sorry. I know a lot of us do not like Emily, rightfully so, especially when we start talking about the Katie of it all, because she's now mad at Tamra for sitting down with Katie. I don't blame her on one level. I don't like how they iced out Katie, but I understand when she says, well, do you understand now why I feel like I can't trust you? And I was like, well, I get it. Because Tamra's intentions in meeting with Katie, we know are nefarious. We know that they're not pure. Sidebar, one of the things that was mentioned on the latest episode of Humble Bride Podcast, which I was on last week. Was it last week? Last week, yeah. Can't keep up. Was the fact that Crystal Kung Minkoff said that Tamra is actually a very different person in like real life. And I was like, yeah, because she's so performative on the show. She feels like she is self-producing and she's a producer. And that's what's annoying. But I also understand when they say that they can't trust Tamra. But for those that say that Heather should not be on the show, again, I said it before, I'll say it again. Heather has to be on the show. No one can throw parties like Heather. No one on this cast has the money like Heather. Until they are able to get some other people that have the money like Heather, then Heather stays. Heather stays. And she's not needed on Beverly Hills. Would she rather be on Beverly Hills? I'm sure. But she's not needed. There's enough money. There's enough women. There's already a full cast. She's not needed. I like her amongst these women, especially because there is history. At this particular point, she has history with a lot of these women, and she's building history. Even Heather gave kudos to Jen. She's like, Jen was actually a really good addition to the show. She has her own personal story. She's very much from the area, and I was like, you're right. I do like Jen being a part of the show. I know a lot of people have turned on it because some of y'all turn on these housewives with the the change of the wind. Speaking of which, I did a tweet the other day about Real Housewives of New Jersey and the way that some of these I don't know if they've realized this. The only reason why randomly I even looked recently was because I was going through some of the tweets that I posted, and I mute certain tweets. When I see tweets starting to gain a lot of traction, I mute them. Yes, even if you're like, oh my God, I agree with you, Kempire, blah, blah, blah. It's just annoying to me in regards to like I'm getting a lot of notifications. So I just mute them. But a lot of times I mute it too because sometimes what I say might be controversial for some people, especially when I talk about Real Housewives of New Jersey, because I had tweeted because you saw a backtrack from Teresa in regards to whether or not she wanted to reconcile with her brother. And Teresa's spinning it like, I was having a conversation with Gia and this is what I wanted to do and blah, 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 blah. And I said, and mind you, I wasn't saying that this was fact. I was saying that what I take from what Teresa's saying here, we're talking about everything besides Real Housewives of Orange County, but it's all related. But what I said was, I'm telling you guys right now that Bravo basically told Teresa, we're going to move forward without you and again, I'm not saying this is fact. Based on her behavior, this is what I feel, okay? But I took this new backtrack. Even when you look at when Melissa was asked about it, she found it to be weird too. She's just like, yeah, that's a real change of heart all of a sudden with the rumors that Bravo was ready to move forward at Real Housewives of New Jersey. Apparently there are some women that have been selected, like new women, but also people like Margaret and Melissa and Dolores. I definitely believe Dolores will return to Real Housewives of New Jersey. She's in the good graces of Bravo. She did Traitors. She was on the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. They haven't confirmed that, but she spent the summer in Rhode Island filming with these women. So I definitely think Dolores is coming back, y'all. And I think Teresa, because she has been so stubborn about not wanting to move forward with her brother and sister-in-law, that Bravo was just like, because you'll see, like, there's a lot of mixed reactions when it comes to Teresa. It's not everyone are pro Teresa. There are some people like, yeah, the show is nothing without Teresa, but I see a lot of people saying like, good riddance to her. But Bravo doesn't want to sever that relationship with Teresa because they value Teresa. They like Teresa. She has a good relationship with the network. However, they feel like they're at an impasse that they want to bring back Real Housewives of New Jersey, but they feel like if they just bring back everyone without Teresa, that's not going to work. That's going to sink that ship still. Because this is why I said when they took this pause, I was like, I honestly believe they need to just scrap the entire cast because I feel like either side is going to feel away if they move forward. Bravo probably said, well, maybe we can bring back the originals. I don't think Jennifer Aydin's even in the conversation. And I think Teresa was given some sort of ultimatum. I don't know that for a fact. This is the energy I'm assuming based off of her recent behavior. I don't believe that she had some conversation with Gia and all of a sudden she magically wants to reconcile with her brother. She says, I'm never going to reconcile with him. And all of a sudden she wants to reconcile. If you've watched our recaps, I would love for them to reconcile. They only have each other. They lost their parents. When they were good, it was really sweet to watch. But I can also understand when family is toxic, it's good to separate yourself from them. So I didn't blame the Gorgas from separating themselves, or Teresa separating from them as well. I thought it might take her a divorce where she was divorcing Louis, but she's not. I thought that's what would have brought them back together. And then I probably would have believed that more than now all of a sudden she's had a change of heart. Okay, girl. All right, we've digressed because I'd much rather talk about anything besides Real Housewives of Orange County. But back to last week's episode of Real Housewives of Orange County. So there were a couple of different charity events. We had Heather do a Trevor Project event. The Trevor Project, again, very much like the LGBT Center here in New York City, they help, gay youth and, well, not just gay youth, LGBTQ plus, youth and things like that. So I love seeing this side of Heather because I believe that is genuine. She's been an ally to the community for a very long time, even before her kids. So I appreciated seeing this sort of philanthropic episode that they were doing. I also enjoyed seeing Emily do the work that she's doing when it comes to prison reform and people that are imprisoned wrongfully. And so she's doing this charity event to raise money to help one specific former prisoner, be able to get the education so he can work for himself and do for himself. So I thought this was actually the energy of the episode I appreciated, but overall I was still sort of like, okay, what else is happening here? Okay, the big conversation, the big return of Katie, I have to say, now that I'm recapping and talking about it, I'm like, it was kind of like stupid. It was basically Tamra feeling like, oh, I had a change of heart. I'm seeing what's happening with Gretchen and Slade. And Slade was the guy behind everything. Katie's like, well, yeah, Slade basically said that, now it's a legal thing. So I was worried. And that's why I didn't want to change my story. I believe Katie. I believe that Slade and Gretchen were lying. Because we literally have on camera where Gretchen is saying, yeah, I went to the hospital. Huh? And now she's denying that she went to the hospital. And at first, when Gretchen said that, why would I just bring this up now and not from years? Because I think you wanted to create a storyline, Gretchen. I think you and Slade decided to come up with some sort of storyline. I don't think Bravo's going to bring her back next season. Her return was another big flop, in my opinion. I feel like it was a big flop. But so Katie and Tamra have this conversation. Again, I'm looking at Tamra like, girl, you want to sit here and act like you're so innocent. Both of you and Katie want to sit here and act like you're both innocent. And you're both liars too. All of you are liars. But in this particular instant, okay, you guys are, I don't even want to use the word vindicated. I don't know what's the word I would use, but okay, girl. Look, okay, you lied less. That should be on a t-shirt. Lied less. Katie and Tamara lied less in this particular situation. Okay. I don't know. So this reunion seating chart was pretty interesting. I guess I'll keep it up to kind of keep me focused because I'll digress and talk about something else other than Real Housewives of Orange County. I will say one of my favorite parts of the episode was the dog psychic. I need to text Femtaro and ask Femtaro, can you read dogs? I think they're so cute. I've seen clips before. I've seen on TikTok a dog psychic. I love this especially because Archie was being asked questions. Clearly, I wish they would have asked a little bit about the accident and what Archie thought and went through during that accident. But what was very clear to me is that Shannon creates great anxiety for Archie. And Archie wants a brother. It will be interesting to see if she really does get him a brother. Shannon says that, the dog psychic says that Archie would like for you to stop with the long goodbyes because he can tell that you're having anxiety, which creates anxiety for him. I've always learned that you're not supposed to do that to your dogs. You're not supposed to say goodbye to your dogs because it can create anxiety. So if she's making a big to-do about I'm going away, I will be back in how many days, and it creates anxiety for him. Okay. I love Jen's new dog. So Jen has a bunch of different dogs. So she has the big queen dog. Well, not so big, but little thick things. Apparently, she wants to be carried all the time, and Jen is like, I am not carrying that dog all around because she's gotten quite heavy. But then she has a new dog that her and Ryan got together, and she was really communicating. She sat up. She sat right next to the dog psychic, and she put her palm up. So I believe that dogs communicate. They have just a different way of communicating. I love dogs. Dogs, I like cats. I like cats. I can't say that I love cats. I like cats, but I love dogs because dogs are just so just beautiful spirit, beautiful energy. They love you. Just I don't understand how anyone could ever harm a dog. I harm an animal, period, but harm a dog. You know what I've really been into? Here we go with another sidebar. Because TikTok, sometimes in the evening when I just want to relax and unwind, I'm swiping through, and I when you stay long on one particular topic, you start to see more. So there's a sector of people, raccoon talk, and I used to love raccoons as a kid before I realized that they were wild and could hurt you. But I used to love because I used to have these stuffed animals that were raccoons, and they were like Velcro, like they would hug each other. So I always loved raccoons. And then when you look at pictures of raccoons, they have the beautiful, most innocent face. But then I've seen some raccoons in New York City that are huge, and they can be aggressive because they're wild animals and they're trying to protect themselves. They're not really trying to harm anyone. They're not attacking people. But I remember leaving for work early in the morning to go to the gym, and that would be like the hour when it was still dark out and the raccoons would be out. And sometimes you would hear them fighting. Sometimes when they're fighting, it's scary. And some of the raccoons that were in my neighborhood, they were big. I would sometimes see them in my backyard, and I'd be like, oh my God, look at that raccoon. It's huge. But anyway, I've digressed. So when I really think raccoons, so some people, there's a black lady too. I've seen some of the blogs post her recently where she has a pet raccoon. So raccoons are really, really cute. Okay, I don't know why I went there. Oh yeah, we were talking about the dog psychic. So I thought that scene was really, really cute and really interesting. Okay. So one of the other issues that was playing out on last week's episode of Real Housewives of Orange County was the fact that Heather and Tamara had their falling out at her event. So they all meet up together with Gina to have a conversation. And I have to say, Heather makes a lot of sense. She's like, we had a conversation about this. I tried to express my feelings to you, and it's like you don't get it. And I'm not going to change how I feel. That's how I feel. I have to be able to tell you how I feel. Tamara is emotionally stunted. Tamara is emotionally immature. Sometimes I'm looking at Tamara And I'm just like, you're acting like a child. Like, this is a grown woman. She's what, 50 something years old? You're a grown woman, but sometimes when you talk, I'm looking at you and I'm like, you sound ridiculous. You sound like a kid. Like you sound emotionally stunted. And I did see in last week's episode where Slade talks about how Eddie lets Tamra act the way that she does. But then, the same could be said about you. like none of these people are innocent or likable. None of them. I'm still riding with Jen, but Jen, you riding with Gretchen, I don't think it was smart because come next season, at least Jen has built a friendship with the other women. I feel like she really has ingrained herself in the group. I do feel like she is a good fit for this group. I think aligning herself with Gretchen was a terrible mistake, but I also feel like it was a catch-22. She could either align herself with Gretchen or align herself with Katie, both who I don't believe will come back next season. I don't think Katie should come back next season. I know there's the small handful of you that are Team Katie, but outside of this group stuff, and I don't agree with how they treated her this season and alienated her, but I don't think she's great television either. No. I like the friendship dynamic that was developing between her and Jen, but that still wasn't enough for me. Like, yeah, bring Katie back. Even that scene with Tamra in last week's episode, I was just like, okay, who cares? Whatever. But that's me. That's me. What else happened? So we had the Trevor Project event that Heather hosted, and they donated, what was it, like $50,000? They donated to the project, and then Emily had her event, and they raised 40 something thousand dollars. I was like, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that does go a long way. So congratulations to them. Speaking of charity events, we are raising money for the Black Women's Health Imperative for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know we're halfway through the month. It's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month as well. It's all about protecting victims, protecting women, and reminding you that Black women especially, yes, women in general for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but Black women especially are far greater affected by breast cancer more than you know. And Black Women's Health Imperative is a great organization. We've worked with them through YouTube Giving for multiple years now. My goal, and I'm going to shame all of you because apparently shame works. As you're watching this, donate now. Help us reach our goal. We're halfway through the month. I set the goal to $3,000, and apparently shame works because we raised $5,000 for the LGBT Center here in New York City during Pride Month in June. I definitely know that we can do it. So many of you watch the channel. If you check out any of our other videos, the links are available there as well. Help us raise $3,000 before the end of this month for Black Women's Health Imperative. 100% of your donation goes to the organization. 100%. Okay? So donate today if you haven't already. Thank you to our King's Guards. Thank you to our channel members. Thank you to our subscribers. Keep liking the video if you haven't already. I'm going to go into this week's episode of the Real Housewives of Orange County episode. So, and again, this is pre-recorded for those that are joining us in the live chat. It's pre-recorded. Calm down. I haven't done a live on Real Housewives of Orange County in a hot second. I don't know what's easier. I could do it live. I can't. Sometimes y'all distract me, so that makes it even longer. This makes it to the point. But I do think last week's episode was a good episode. Fair. I would probably give it a 5.5, 6. I'm not going to say it has been a great season. This week they're going to Amsterdam, which I just got back from. So it's going to be nice to watch that. Maybe I'll enjoy that episode more because it's in Amsterdam, one of my favorite cities to visit. Maybe. But based off a tweet I just saw from our friends over at OMFG Reality TV, they said the episode was dragging. So who knows? Maybe the second part of this recap will be much shorter than the first part. Or we'll digress and talk about something completely else, like my trip to Amsterdam. Maybe. Okay, so there was a part of last week's episode that I did not talk about. So let me talk about that before we get into this week's episode, last night's episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County. So we didn't get to talk about what went down at Emily's event between Tamra and Gretchen. because Gretchen decides that she wants to confront Tamra for what she has been telling, what she started to tell Jen in regards to her conversation with Katie. So the group feels differently on how Gretchen handled this in regards to sending Slade to have this conversation with her, and she didn't feel like that was aggressive. I don't know if that was aggressive, because if Tamara was there by herself and she wasn't there with her husband Eddie, then I probably would have thought, yeah, why are you sending Slade to have this conversation? But I don't understand. Tamara has all of this mouth. Tamara likes to be the big bad wolf. However, she's walking away and leaving the event. That was weird to me. Stand in your truth. Like, why are you leaving? Because I feel like you have the upper hand here. Because, and I think this is what people were claiming that Gretchen was going to bring this season. She was going to be the big bad wolf to scare the other big bad wolf. And some people during this last episode were comparing Gretchen and Tamara, saying like they're kind of the same person. I don't know if they're the same person, to be honest with you. Not to say that Gretchen is innocent, but I don't know if I would say that they're the same person. Again, and this is just based off of me being introduced to Gretchen this season. I don't know about Gretchen from yesteryear, but just this season, I can't say that they're the same person, but I also understand that Gretchen is not innocent. And I just don't understand, with Gretchen and Slade going to confront Tamra and Eddie, I'm wondering if this more has to do with the show. As opposed, she's not scared of Gretchen, but she's like, I'm not going to give you a moment so that you can get more camera time. So that's what a lot of this stuff that we watch, and you were wondering, like, why are you running away? Or why are you doing this? A lot of times, again, we always tell you, what they're arguing about isn't necessarily that. It's more so to do with the show. It has to do with filming. It has to do with, I want to be the queen of the show, or I'm not going to give you the time of day or give you a moment because you're just a friend of the season. So you want to have a problem with me so that you can get more camera time. So it could be more that than Tamara's afraid of Slade, or Tamara's afraid of Gretchen, or what they might say. Maybe she is. Maybe she is afraid that that Slade was going to bring up the whole 98 Degrees band guy again, and maybe she did not want to have that conversation again in front of Eddie, and especially if there may be audio recording of something. It could be that, but again, I'm thinking it's actually more so about giving them camera time or giving them a moment. Honestly, I was happy that we didn't have the conversation. I am over Tamra and Gretchen rehashing their 15-year-old beef. You don't like each other. You never like each other. Get over it. I don't know who thought to bring them back. Honestly, I'm not going to even blame production. I'm going to blame Jen. Jen, you slipping in the DMs of Gretchen and saying, call me. I need your help. No, you don't. I would have much rather us focus this season on something completely different. And I don't know what that would have been, because we still have some of the same old players that are still, when I say same old, I don't mean literally old. Calm down, because you know some people get sensitive. But it's like the same people, the same stuff, like whatever. But fast forward into this week's episode, I will say this. I like the little friendship that's developing between Shannon and Jen. However, Shannon, it's very much, it's my way or the highway when it comes to being a friend to you, because you don't like the fact that Jen is still friends with Alexis. However, I get it, because there was a legal situation that was involved, and personally, I wouldn't want a friend to be friends with someone that took it to that level. So I don't blame you in regards to that, but it's just the way that it's playing out in this episode. It's like, okay. But Jen has been honest with her. She did invite me to the wedding. She did send a save the date. I don't know if I'm going or not. And Shannon's like, I will say it will affect our friendship. I like the friendship that's developing between Shannon and Jen. Sometimes you just never know if these friendships are genuine. Yes, we know that a lot of these women aren't really, really friends, but sometimes a real friendship can develop. But sometimes some of these friendships are like, let me attach myself to someone that's a power player on the cast so I can secure my position or secure my protection. Especially, and I'm not saying that Jen is like this, but when you think that Jen is having issues with Tamra and Tamra's having issues with Shannon, Jen's like, let me, like very much like what she did with Gretchen, let me hitch my wagon to these individuals that don't like Tamra. Maybe. I feel like this week's episode was more so about kind of connecting some more of the stories, family stuff that's going on. We got to know a little bit more about Heather and her family dynamic. Remember, she talked about how Tamra reminds her a lot of her father. So we talked a little bit more about her father. I have to say, I enjoyed learning a little bit more about how Heather grew up and her family dynamic. Did not know her parents had lived in Amsterdam for a few years. You know, I just went to Amsterdam. It's one of my favorite cities to visit. This last trip was a little different because I've been there so many times. And usually when I'm there, I will say after I did Dublin, Ireland, I was sort of like, when went to the airport and I was going to Amsterdam, I was like, I should just go home. I should have just made this a 1 week trip and just go home. I'm glad that I didn't, because once I got to Amsterdam and I was in the city and I'm seeing the canals, even though it was rainy when I landed in Amsterdam that day, just seeing the canal, there's something about the energy. Maybe I had a past life in Amsterdam. I don't know. There's something about the city that always rejuvenates my spirit and my energy. I love Amsterdam. I think it's beautiful. This time of the year might not be the best time to go because it is very cloudy. It is very rainy. But I will say I saw more sun in Amsterdam than I did in Ireland. But I knew what I was signing up for. Please understand, I'm not complaining. I knew what I was signing up for this time of the year. But what I do like about Amsterdam, you will have multiple seasons in a day. Sometimes it's like sunny, sun comes out, it's nice and warm. Then all of a sudden it starts raining, and then it's cold and windy. So it was more consistently cloudy this particular trip. But I figured I've been to Amsterdam during the summer when it's beautiful. But even during the summer, sometimes you can get weather like that. So it was kind of nice seeing this episode. But before we even get to Amsterdam, we have a couple of these different scenes where they're sort of like just giving us an update on what's going on. We get an update on Gina and Travis's situation and the complicatedness of Travis's situation with his ex. But Travis and Gina are still riding with each other. They're not engaged, right? And I'm not trying to say that they should get engaged, but it just feels like the next step, you know what I mean, in regards to their relationship. But again, I'm not that invested. Then there was some updates in regards to what's going on with Emily and her son, because she's like, and she mentions this once they get to Amsterdam, that having a diagnosis, he's not autistic. She did come out, and I forgot what she said. We talked about this in a previous episode, but he's dyslexic, and she didn't realize that he wasn't reading at the level that he should be reading at. I will literally just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I saw a father reading with his child on the train. He's literally standing and reading to his child. So the conversations about, like, you know what, I get it. You know, you get home, you're busy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm watching this man read to his child on the train. And I'm just like, so then there's that. And one of the things that I really loved about, I'm going to be sidebarring a lot in this recap because these last two episodes were Anyway, one of the things I can appreciate about Dublin, apparently they really love literature. They are very much invested. There were so many bookstores in Ireland, Dublin specifically. There were a lot of vintage shops and everything like that as well. I didn't really do any vintage shopping because I really wasn't looking to do that in Ireland. I was really this was my first time going. So I was really just looking to experience the history and the culture and things like that. And I feel like I got a good sense. I went to a few museums. I'm a good, I like a good museum. So I went to a few museums. What else did I do? I wasn't going to do a food tour, but Ireland isn't known for their food. But it would have been kind of cool. But I also wanted to relax. You also know I was working a lot still, even though I was on vacation. I was still working a lot. So there were some days I was like, let me just sleep in. But I did a few churches. The thing that I really loved about Ireland, it was nice to be in a European city that wasn't a European city or European country. Europe cities, a European country that has not colonized anywhere in the world. They were actually colonized. So their energy of being revolutionary and finding themselves and being very open-minded to, the cause when it comes to Palestine and what's going on there. I'm telling you, I went to the countryside, and that stood out to me because, sometimes in the countryside, they're a little bit more conservative. I was in the countryside, and you saw on top of houses the Palestinian flag, and I was like, that stood out to me. I was on a tour, and we went right into a Free Palestine protest, and someone that I met there had mentioned that, yeah, we were recognizing Palestine as a state before a lot of these other countries were recognizing Palestine as a state. And I was like, and when you learn the history of Ireland, and you're like, oh, you kind of understand. When I went to Amsterdam, there were, in the central area there that normally sort of like their Union Square where we have protests in New York and things like that. This is where they have their protests and whatnot. So a couple of times when I was there, I saw some Free Palestine protests along with some other protests that were going on as well. I don't know. It's a very interesting time, and this is why I always say traveling is like your best education, because especially when you're asking the questions and you're trying to get a sense, especially because I think we're realizing more and more our media is very much controlled. We love to criticize other countries and saying that they spoon feed what they want to their citizens, and we're realizing more and more. I mean, the Jimmy Kimmel of it all, when we learned about how these networks work in regards to their local stations and what they own, and how they operate their news sources. Like, America is exactly who they are accusing these other countries of being. Okay, I've digressed. But it's all relative. It's all relative to what we're talking about. If you're just joining us, guys, don't forget to like the video. It's an easy, free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. We're talking about the Real Housewives of Orange County. The season's like the season's but it's okay. So we were talking about Travis and Gina, talking about their issues and them being partners throughout the hiccups of what's going on with Travis's ex-wife. There was also a scene with Heather talking about her father and living in Amsterdam, and after she had went off to college and things like that. So she talked about that. When they get to Amsterdam, they actually sail by where her father used to, where her father and mother used to live. And she brought his ashes because she would like to pour his ashes there. Honestly, when I'm dead and gone, sprinkle some of my ashes in Amsterdam, because just saying, because that was one of my favorite places to visit. I've been there, I've probably been there the most in regards to my travels. I've definitely been there probably the most. Not, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been there the most. Yeah, so scatter some of my ashes around that parts, okay? I couldn't tell you where to spread them, because I just love. You'll turn a corner and you're like, oh, where is this? I will say I walk around this very familiar. Like, I know where certain things are. I mean, I still kind of get lost in the city, but then I always seem to find my way back. But yeah, so I had a good time in Amsterdam, and it looks like the ladies have a good time with Amsterdam. I'm trying not to be so judgy about the ladies and what they share and do during this Amsterdam trip, because we have to remember they're filming a show and they can't film everywhere, so they're limited on where they can go and who will allow them to film there. I know for a fact that in the red light district, though, you can't film the ladies in the windows. You're not supposed to do that. Some of these, silly tourists will go there drunk and film the women. You're not supposed to. You should not be filming the ladies. I walked through the red light district. I didn't like really walk deep in it. Like, I was walking back to my hotel, like the long way, and I ended up in the red light district. I remember I had a hotel in the red light district. It was like right there. It wasn't like you couldn't see the actual like red light district, but it was like, I guess technically it was in the red light district. It was like a beautiful Airbnb that I stayed. I just liked it because it was so close to Central Station. But this last couple of times I've stayed a good distance from the center of the city. Just because, now you kind of live and learn, like, oh yeah, it's kind of nice to be central, but then at the same time you don't want to be so central, because it can get party and rowdy in certain parts of the central area. Especially, I have to say, it was very busy even this time of the year. There's like a lot of people over there in the central parts of Amsterdam. But yeah, what else happened in this episode that was even worth talking about? because I literally just watched it and I said, okay, I'll finish part 2 of our Real Housewives of Orange County recap before so they sit down and at the top of the episode, Shannon threw a sort of like a wedding shower, but not really. So you see her frustrations because everything that she planned is seemingly falling apart. But I thought this was a sweet scene because all of the ladies were kind of giving advice to Jen because a lot of them have been married more than once. And they were sharing sort of their experiences and life lessons in regards to marriage. This was the second time this season where they kind of did that. Remember, they did that a few episodes ago to help Shannon's daughter. I like seeing this sort of sisterhood because, they always talk about Real Housewives being a sisterhood and like a sorority. And it's rare we see the sisterhood element. I will give Orange County some credit this season. This was a second scene where it felt like some sisterhood. Like, I really felt like everyone was giving actual solid genuine advice, including Tamra, in regards to helping out Jen. Even though Shannon made a joke and she was just like, I mean, we're celebrating you. We don't have a date yet. Maybe next year we'll be celebrating you again in regards to this marriage, because Jen is a little hesitant. She is a little hesitant. That's one of her scenes. But dare I say, I give Ryan credit. Ryan seems, despite him seeming a little greasy in a lot of ways, he seems to really get it when it comes to co-parenting with Will, who's not really showing up, but recently he started to be a little bit more involved with the kids and things like that. But I will give Ryan credit. Ryan seems to be very understanding and patient with Jen. She talks about it when they're in Amsterdam because remember she had some reconstructive surgery to her vajayjay. I never even heard. I've heard of the mommy makeover a little bit, but it sounded like she did a lot of stuff to the point where she couldn't have sex. She said he could only get an inch in. Okay, all right, too much information. So he's been very patient, and I have to say, despite all the question marks around him. And even Gina made a joke, he is a little overly sexualizes her sometimes, but she likes it, right? It seems like she likes it. And she always refers to him as her best friend. They seem to have a very healthy relationship and friendship. Dare I say, probably the most healthy relationship on this cast. And it seems like whatever he did for the finances, she's doing better off with Ryan than she was with Will. And he seems to be really good to her and the kids. And she's got a lot of kids and dogs. I wish her the best. She is hesitant about getting married again, though. And he's being very patient about it, too. Here's the thing. I think he's being patient because he also has not rushed down the aisle. Has Ryan been married before? And if not, he's been a bachelor for a while now. So he proposed, but maybe he's also like, okay, I'm not in a rush either. I mean, I hope we don't find out later that she really did want to get married and he was the one really holding out. Doesn't seem that way, but okay. So the ladies get together and ready and they head on over to Amsterdam. I will say this, flying to Amsterdam, being in Amsterdam is quite expensive now. Back in the day, it wasn't cheap back in the day, but I will say flying back from Amsterdam, I was like, I think I told this story. Maybe I told it on TheKempire podcast. That's the Apple paid podcast subscription. There's a free 3-day trial. Go check it out. You can also, even if you don't have an Apple product, you can check it out via their website. I feel like everything is really, really expensive now in Amsterdam. Everything in the city itself. I'm a New Yorker, so for me, some of these prices, I'm like, okay, whatever. But the ticket back from Amsterdam was quite expensive. Luckily, what I ended up doing was buying. It was far cheaper to buy the miles as opposed to just pay it outright. I saved a lot of money by buying miles versus paying the ticket price that they were asking for. I did see that JetBlue was affordable, but I have a membership with Delta, so that's the only reason why I wanted to stick with Delta. JetBlue also flies in. I see that's what the ladies ended up taking. They flew first class. I did not fly first class. It was too expensive, way too expensive. But I don't mind the business class. That I guess this is what they call business class, premium select. That was quite comfortable. I will say, flying to Dublin the same way, there were only 50 people on my flight to Dublin. I was like, there is not a lot of people on this flight to Dublin. I think it just was the specific flight and time and day because it was weird. I was like, oh, this is really empty. My flight coming back from Amsterdam was fairly full, fairly full, but I liked my seat. I had a really good. I liked it. But my flight to Dublin, there was no one sitting next to me, so I like had the entire like area to myself. I saw in the back, in economy back there, there were people like spread out across the seats. Like it was an empty flight. It was like perfect. I loved it, and all my flight stuff. Like thank you to the flight gods. Everything was on time. Flying back here to New York, there was a nor'easter this past weekend. So they sent a text saying that, your flight might be affected. And I was like, oh, please, no, I want to get home. By the end of my trip, I was just ready to be home. Nothing, happened during this trip that was like terrible. It's just like, living out of the suitcase kind of thing. Even though I wasn't living out of a suitcase, when I get to the hotel, and I stayed in like an apart hotel. So it's sort of like an apartment. I take all my stuff. I have the travel packs. If you don't know, I've been using travel packs for years. Like they're called something. I forgot what they're called. Do I have the thing in front of me? No, I don't. But it basically where you can put your clothes in, and then you put those in like the luggage cubes, those travel cubes. So I use those. It makes it so much easier to pack and to unpack. Like I'm like this boom, 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 and I'm like, oh, unpacked. I have to do that. So, I've digressed so much, but I much rather talk about this than talk about Real Housewives of Orange County. But anyway, let's get back to Real Housewives of Orange County, guys. If you're just joining us, be sure to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting the channel. Be sure to let us know in the live chat poll how you would rate this week's episode, and if you're watching on Twitch. Thank you all for watching on Twitch. Basically, the audio and the video quality is much better on Twitch. So be sure to follow us there. If you're not, twitch.tv/TheKempire. Shout out to those of you watching on X, those of you watching on Facebook, TheKempire and Kempire Daily on Facebook. And for those of you listening to the Kempire podcast, we appreciate it as well. Do us a favor and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And Club Kempire baddies, I do owe you an episode, but bear with me. I'm getting back, getting settled. This was such a busy week. I can't believe it's Friday already. This weekend, I just want to relax, but then I'm like, I went to the storage unit to bring my winter clothes, but then I hear it's supposed to be 70 on Sunday. I'm a fit, like, I don't care. I'll sweat in my sweats because at this particular point, it's winter time, okay? So I've already started moving out the summer stuff and I'm getting rid of a lot of the stuff because I really have to live by that rule of if you haven't worn it in a year, then you probably should get rid of it. And as you know, I've lost a couple of pounds, even though I'm still wearing like extra large and stuff. Just because I'm like, I like the shirt. I'd like my stuff a little baggy. But some of the stuff I even brought on my trip, like the pants, I'm just like, yeah, I can't wear these anymore. So I'm just donating them all. I can't. Just can't. And it makes life a lot easier too when you're just like, okay, let me clear all this stuff out. I don't even have that much storage. I moved from a house to an apartment, so storage is limited. My storage unit has more Christmas stuff than it does like clothes and stuff. Just don't judge. I did get a couple of ornaments and things like that because Europe loves their Christmas. Dublin was changing over to Christmas the week that I was there. Amsterdam was also changing over to Christmas. I was like, ooh, so I got a couple of ornaments. If you follow me on TikTok, you'll probably see me decorating my tree. I need to get a new tree. I don't know if I told you guys the last tree that I had, which was gorgeous. I love my tree from last year. If I can get it again, I will. But when I was taking it down, it broke. So I thank God for QVC. They were like, we'll take it back. Fantastic. They probably fix it and then resell it again. So but I think I want to get that tree again because I loved my tree. I love it. And I love Christmas. 'Tis the season. I'm skipping Halloween. Anyway, I've digressed again. So they get to Amsterdam. The ladies get to Amsterdam. Of course, they're in Amsterdam. I know you probably think I go to Amsterdam to puff pass. I don't. Never have. Okay. I've gone with friends to like the coffee houses that they have there, the coffee shops that they have. the coffee shops that they have. I'd rather go to a museum. I did quite a few museums when I was in Amsterdam this past week. I didn't go to any coffee shops though. I passed a few of them. Puff puff pass. So of course, Heather likes to do a little something. Shannon is doing a space cake, and she's like, "Ooh." I mean, good for Shannon. Okay, I love how they keep mentioning Love Hotel when they're on the flight. They mention Love Hotel. I feel like they throughout different episodes they're mentioning Love Hotel. Who I want to see go on Love Hotel. Yesterday we recapped the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Heather Gay. I want to see Heather Gay go on Love Hotel. Heather Gay should do Love Hotel. I mean, I'm sure they want to bring Shannon back, but no, Shannon, we're good. You need to take a break. Focus on yourself. Who else do I want to see on Love Hotel? Anyone from this cast that I want to see on Love Hotel? No, because everybody has a boo, right? Besides Shannon. I have to think. And I don't even think it should just be Real Housewives. They should consider other Bravo celebrities that are single. I don't know. Who cares? Let me focus on this episode. I just noticed that they mentioned Love Hotel a lot, especially when it comes to Shannon. I guess they wanted to watch. It was a good show, though, Love Hotel. I enjoyed watching it. I didn't finish watching all of it. I did watch the finale, but I didn't watch every single episode. Part of my audio was in that episode because I talk about Shannon driving her car into a home. So I'm featured in episode 1. Thanks, Bravo. I'm sure you're going to be utilizing that into perpetuity. A sidebar. It's related, though. It's related. Calm down. The episodes on Peacock for Real Housewives of Orange County are now also featuring Watch What Happens Live. Which ruins it for me, who's trying to be like, oh, is this episode 16 or 17? No, now they're including the Watch What Happens Live episodes, so they automatically go and boost the Watch What Happens Live episode. Andy, you are such a thirsty... What's the word? But we've talked about this before, and they used to do that with like when it would air live, then automatically would go into Watch What Happens Live. They still do that, and I said, oh, they're trying to inflate his ratings. And that's what they're now doing for Peacock. They're trying to inflate his Peacock numbers because his Peacock numbers probably are low, but they never show his Peacock numbers. They renewed him. I think you have to keep in mind, they renew Watch What Happens Live. I'm not saying Watch What Happens Live is terrible. However, they renew him because he's the bread and butter over there because of his Real Housewives show. So that's helping keep the network alive. So obviously anything that he wants, they're going to give it to him. But you don't see him highlighting any DEI over there. I see NBC News is getting rid of their DEI programs. But I'm sure Andy's not speaking up for a DEI. When I say DEI, it's not just black and brown. We already told you the people that benefit the most from DEI initiatives. That is white women. Yeah. So stop with that. Anyway, we've digressed. So they're in Amsterdam having a good time, eating space cakes. They separate and they did a canal cruise. I almost did a canal cruise this time around because it is nice to be on the canal. But I was just like, I didn't feel like doing it. And I've done it like 2-3 times before. And I'd much rather do something completely different. But I didn't do it this time around. But the canal can be a fun thing to do, especially like when it's warmer and nicer weather. But if you've never done it and you're going to Amsterdam for the first time, you must do a canal ride on some level. And maybe try and go out. Don't do the ones near like by Amsterdam Central. Go walk around, and if you see one like further away, do those. I think it'd be a little bit less touristy. Or look at Airbnb experiences. I love an Airbnb experiences. Some cities are better than others, but there's some really cool experiences that you can find on Airbnb. I remember one of the first times that I went to Amsterdam, I did a Reiki experience where I went to this woman's setup and she did Reiki on me. I think it was like the first time I ever had like Reiki done on me. Energy healing. But she's no longer on there because I looked. I was ready to go get me some Reiki healing. Just saying. Anyway, I've digressed. So they're in Amsterdam. They're painting toys. And if you watch the episode, you know what toys I'm talking about. They went to, what was the lady's name? Lenny. They went to her shop and they were painting their little toys. But at one particular point during the trip, they bring up Jen still being friends with Alexis, and Shannon saying that she's not cool with that. She's not happy about that. And she did have a conversation with Jen about her friendship with Alexis and whether or not she was going to the wedding. You know, fast forward, the wedding did happen. Tamra went to the wedding. Okay. But Tamra referred to it as a spiritual wedding, which makes me wonder, was it an actual wedding? I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. If I'm being honest. I'll just mention it because it came to my mind. So what else happened in this episode? I mean, we do have a little fun moment between Shannon and Tamra because the space cake is hitting. Heather's like, if this is what going to bring these two together, let's get some more in them. Because at one particular point, Tamra's under the table trying to come up Shannon's leg. It was just okay, y'all. Like all the little theatrics that they think fans still enjoy. It's giving very Taylor Swift, Life of a Showgirl, with the Swifties are sort of turning on her. I feel like the Bravo fans are sort of like, this is no longer interesting or fun. Like all these little theatrics. It doesn't feel natural, especially when you're a woman of a particular age. You're like, are we still doing this? And my thing is, there's so many things to do in Amsterdam that could be fun to do, like the shopping but I also don't even think it's about the events that they're doing. I think it's the personalities. Because I feel like with Beverly Hills, when they went on a trip and they were just shopping and talking and having a good time, it felt different. It felt fun. So I think it's more so the personalities than just the events or the lack of the events that they're doing. And I think we get caught up thinking, oh, it's the events or the lack of events or the things that they're doing that make it boring. No, I think it's the personalities that are making these things boring. And there I go freezing because I still haven't changed the wire yet. But I'm keeping my fourth wall in. Keep my fourth wall in. I need to change that wire at some particular point. It's okay, though. There we are, and I'm back. Anyway, I was done talking about this episode. This was actually a bigger episode because we were talking about 2 episodes in one. But I did a lot of sidebars, and I know you guys don't mind the sidebars. We have a good time. We still talk about, to me, the sidebars are still very relevant to the episode. I was just in Amsterdam. They're in Amsterdam this week. You know, Dankjewel. But yeah. One of the other things that I forgot, because I haven't been to Amsterdam in like 2 years, I forget how Dutch it is, meaning like everyone is speaking Dutch. The signs are in Dutch. They know English, obviously. And I love specifically what I've learned with the Dutch, because they learn English from watching American television. So a lot of times when you start talking English to them, they will speak to you in sort of like an American accent. Like whatever American accent that they maybe they learned, they will speak to you in that particular accent. So sometimes I'm like, are you American? But a lot of times, no, that's just the accent that they learned. So I always found that to be quite interesting. All right, y'all. I'm going to round it out with those sirens. You probably hear them. Maybe you don't hear them. If you don't, fantastic, Mike. Okay. But if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. Easy, free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notifications. And don't forget to donate to our new fundraiser. I'm shaming all of you. You can donate something. How many people have donated already in this live? You still have a few minutes. I will wait. Donate. We have $3,000 to raise in a matter of 13 days. We can do it. And if you're watching the replay of this, I'm shaming you too. I'm looking at you. I'm looking right at you. Yes, you. Did you donate? Oh, you're gonna donate next week? I'm gonna take notice. Let me know when you're donating or if you donated in the live chat or in the comment section. Look, it's for a good cause. 100% of your donation goes to Black Women's Health Imperative. We've raised money with them before. Let's break a record again this year. I think if all of us gave a little bit, And again, a little bit could be $5. If we all did that, that would go a long way. If every single person here gave like $5. Come on. Let's do it. Let's do it together. I know we can set the record and do better than we've done before. Thank you to our Kings Guards. Thank you to our channel members. Thank you to our subscribers. And thank you to everyone that has already donated or will donate. We appreciate that. And I will see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching our recap of the Real Housewives of Orange County. Let me know your thoughts, replay crew. And let's continue the conversation in the comment section. Bye, y'all.
Here we go now.